Welcome to the Eclectic Thrifter and Crafter, where we thrift and craft with purpose. It's Tea Tuesday. Or in my world, Crafty Tuesday. Grab a cup of tea and let's see what we can do with all of this china. I'm going to begin with this little creamer. I'm going to put a little block of wood inside the area where the spout is and firmly secure it with hot glue. Then I'm going to choose the bird that's going to go along with the creamer, and we're going to attach that with E6000 glue. We found a pretty little yellow canary for the little yellow creamer. These are little nappy dishes or bonbon dishes, and what I've done is create a platform in the handle to support the little bird. I'll show you how to do that in just one moment, and we're off to a very successful start for our craft. Keep your hot glue hot and painter's tape handy for the next few steps. We're going to put this pretty little bluebird on this pretty little blue nappy dish. I'm going to block up the openings of the side and the base of the nappy dish with the painter's tape. This will prevent the hot glue from seeping out. I hope you've all had a wonderful week, and thank you so much for stopping by for a cup of tea. So now you have a little well, and your hot glue is going to be very, very hot, so put that in there. And you're going to get quite a little bit built up until it just reaches the rim of the ring. That's when you're going to set your bird in place and then set it aside to dry. My advice in doing a project like this, map it out. It might take you 3 days depending on what type of glue you're going to use. But my advice is map it out very carefully so you can do everything in an assembly line fashion. It will go much quicker. For the various stages of the project, I advise that if you're going to use E6000 glue, do that stage of the project first because it's going to take 24 hours for that glue to thoroughly dry. I love this little pinecone dish. It took me a year to collect all the little birds. Some are resin, some are salt shakers, some are little figurines, some are portions of figurines that were broken on the shelves at the thrift store, but I purchased them anyway for the birds because I do that for the bird houses that I make. And if you have a large selection of birds in your little inventory, if you keep a drawer for that sort of thing, you're going to find birds that are going to complement the china very well. I'm sharing here that I blocked up the spout with epoxy clay, but I want to let you know that I did unblock it at the end because I chose to go another direction with it. The little mouse was really cute, but that was not going to be its home. I found another place for that little fellow. On the figurines, whether they're resin or porcelain, there's generally a little foot on the base of the figurine. If the figurine is resin, a simple hacksaw blade will saw that foot free. If that figurine is porcelain, the same hacksaw blade, you can score around the base of the figurine with the hacksaw blade and then tape around it, put a cloth around it to hold it tightly, and using a pair of wire clippers you can clip away the unwanted porcelain and then just sand it with some rough sandpaper. Oh look, we found a beautiful little bird that's going to match that little creamer perfectly. And a little brown bird for the bonbon dish. Here we have a beautiful little hair receiver. I think it's lovely. The moriage on it is absolutely stunning. It has a little chip. I did get it for 50% off, but I'm going to use it to make a little wall hanging. And that's how I'm going to secure the mouse inside with hot glue. There is a little chip on the inside lid of the hair receiver, but for our project, we're not going to need to worry about that. Have your painter's tape ready because you may need to support your bird depending on how you're going to position it inside whatever vessel you're going to be using, whether it's a hair receiver, creamer, or teacup. Hot glue is going to be sufficient for supporting the little birds inside the vessels. Just set that aside to dry. He's well supported by the painter's tape, but for the little mouse, the painter's tape is holding him secure enough that I'm going to go ahead and seal the lid to the bowl of the hair receiver and set it aside to dry. This little hair receiver does not have a high resale value. It sat at this particular Missions thrift store for about 3 months before it was finally migrated to the 50% off rack. And there he is. He's absolutely adorable. I did choose to keep him, but the rest of the items I did take to the craft fair. Those are all the little birds that I've been putting together for the last year or so. There's everything from figurines to salt shakers in that little dish, wherever I could find a little bird. I used this bonbon dish to sort out how I was going to perch the bird on the handle. So this is why there's a platform in there that is already solidified hot glue. So I'm going to use the 6000 glue to attach the bird to this bonbon dish. When you haven't used your E6000 glue in a while, or you're right down to that last very little bit and this little spout is clogged up, you just have to put gloves on and cut it open and get the rest of it out of there to make most of your money. I had a lot of favorites of the things that I made that day. There we go. He's going to be propped up just fine. Once you get an anchored spot in there and it thoroughly dries, you can remove the tape, and then you're going to be free to create a solid platform underneath the bird on the inside of the dish. I put a lot of hot glue in there, so I'm going to let that dry thoroughly, and then I'm going to go back and make sure it's very secure. This is a wonderful way to give new life to old china, especially family pieces that are single pieces, maybe from a set that your grandparents had and it's just sitting in your cupboard. It's nice to make a little heirloom piece that you can pass on to your children. Sometimes what can take some extra time is marrying the right pieces together. If you see pieces that have been randomly, without thought, glued together and you find them at the thrift store, that is Frankensteining. You don't want to Frankenstein beautiful pieces of china. Take very good care and make sure that the pieces have some sort of cohesive color scheme or theme about them to make the pieces attractive. This is the epoxy clay that I use. I purchased it on Amazon. It is a 2-part mixture, and I use this for various projects when it involves porcelains. I just love it. You have plenty of time to work the clay. As you're working on your project, you don't have to speed through it because it does not dry that fast. I do advise that you allow a complete 24 hours to go by for it to completely become solid before you decorate it. I'm using my polymer clay tools to tuck the epoxy clay inside and underneath the birds. This will help support the birds, attach it solidly to the porcelain, as well as giving me a nice foundation to decorate so it looks like a finished piece. I purchased these teardrop gems on Amazon. They have been holed, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to string them on wire and suspend them just at the end of the spouts of the creamer and the teapot. I'm doing this at the epoxy clay stage so the epoxy clay can bond with the wire. On some of the other pieces, such as the teapot and a couple of little creamers, I'm choosing to use hot glue, and I'm going to allow it to drip down so it will appear like a little bit of water is just about to drip out. I used blue translucent nail polish to give that appearance of water. I also used nail polish to enhance the flowers and paint the bases where the epoxy clay was. From scrap 1/4 inch plywood, I made a solid mount piece, making sure that each woodcut matched the foot of each piece of porcelain. I glued each wall mount with E6000 glue and allowed to dry for 24 hours. Mark where your hangers are going to go, and then carefully using small screws, attach your picture hangers to the wall mount. I hope you've enjoyed this little project and found it inspiring. Please like and subscribe, and tapping that like button helps the algorithm share my channel. Please share my thrifting and crafting channel with your thrifting and crafting friends. I welcome your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. Check us out on Instagram and tap that notification button for upcoming announcements of thrifts and crafts. But most of all, have a lovely, lovely day.